Welcome to Basically a Therapist, but without the degree. I'm your host, Lauren Larson, and I am honored that you are tuning in to episode 27. So, writing on the coattails of last week's episode on people pleasing, I want to talk about not being for everyone and the freedom that we can find in this. Because the truth is, no matter how perfectly we present ourselves, no matter how perfect we try to act, there is always going to be somebody that doesn't like it. We are all subjective humans that like and dislike different things. There is not one thing universally that people can agree on. Politics, religion, music, food, books, fashion, movies, you name it. That's why there are so many different varieties and variations of these things. It's because not everybody can agree on things that they like. You can find a pocket of people that like certain things, but not every single person in the entire world is going to like one thing. You're not going to get agreement on everything. And this isn't only normal, it's healthy. Like, think about it. How boring would it be if everybody liked the same thing? There would be no variety. There would be no options. There'd be no creativity. It'd all just be kind of the same. So we're going to look into why not being everyone's cup of tea is healthy, and it's good, and it's okay. So most importantly, when you can accept that not everybody is going to like you, you can live completely free. You don't have to be burdened by expectation. You don't have to worry about living up to a standard. Like, yeah, there are social and societal things, but when you realize that you're not for everybody, you can live so free. You can make choices that reflect your values and your beliefs and your opinions rather than trying to conform to other people's expectations. When you live this way, think of the peace that you have, right? Think of the integrity that you live by because you are not faking it. You are not pretending to be somebody you're not. You're not putting on a mask. You are being fully, authentically, truly you. And that's beautiful. And when you step into this authenticity, when you step into this acceptance, you are going to attract the right people to you. You are going to develop genuine connections and relationships with people that will accept you for who you are, that will love you exactly who you are. Hello, look at relationships, look at marriages, look at dating relationships and friendships. Like, you see some of the most random people put together. But everybody's likes, everybody's wants and desires and needs, they're subjective. There's not a black and white rule. And that's the beauty of it all, is there is someone for everyone. And when you find these people, when you're in this like sweet spot, this pocket of people, think of the safety that you'll feel with them. Think of the respect and the understanding and the vulnerability that you can have with them. That's a beautiful thing. That's freeing. And if you haven't met those people yet, maybe it's because you're not showing up authentically yet. Like, stop being what you think other people want you to be. In addition to having genuine, healthy connections, you're also going to have healthy boundaries. It's not an episode if I don't talk about boundaries. Like, it's not basically a therapist episode if I am not bringing up boundaries in some way, shape, or form. But when you are living authentically, when you are fully showing up as yourself, not worried about everybody liking you, you can create room for the people that do. And you can prioritize those relationships that are supportive, and they're not going to be one-sided. Rather than finding yourself in these draining, one-sided relationships, this is where we would put boundaries up. This is where we would enforce boundaries. Because we are not here to have one-sided, draining relationships. Like it's a give and take on both sides. Also, I want you to think about how much growth you'll have when you embrace who you are fully and the confidence that will come from that. You won't need to rely on external validation to fulfill you, to make you feel good about yourself. A, because we have a God who already does that, and B, we are so wrapped up in the opinion of God and how he made us and what he thinks of us, that we are free from the opinions of others. We'll have this God confidence in us that nobody can touch. Nobody can take away the confidence that we get from God. And because of that, we will be empowered by God to make better choices for ourselves, make choices that align with what God is saying, because we know that God has our back. He is our defender. He is our protector. And so whatever decision that we make, he's got our back. And so even if it's unpopular and even if it's misunderstood by others, as long as you and God are on the same page with this decision, that's all that matters. That's it. And that's going to make a lot of people angry. And that's okay, because we're not for everybody. I said this last week, but doing this, fully embracing who you are and showing up authentically, fully as yourself, will probably annoy some people. It'll make some people mad. It'll turn some people off. And this is good, because people are going to start weeding themselves out. You don't really have to do the dirty work, because people are probably going to get turned off and start going away. And this creates room for those people that are right for you. I'm a firm believer that God will always replace with better when you trust in him, when you let him lead. He has done it in my life over and over and over again, and I know that he can do it for you. So don't think of it as people rejecting you. Don't think of it as people abandoning you. Think of it as they're making room for better, healthier relationships. You know, different opinions and different ideas and different outlooks and perspectives, these are all good things. Because like I said earlier, if we all thought the same way, if we all believed the same way, it would be pretty boring around here. But think of all of these opportunities that you have to learn from people and their perspectives. It doesn't mean that you have to believe them. It doesn't mean that you have to take them on as yours, but you have the opportunity to see the world and see people in a different light, in a different perspective, because we are all made so vastly different. And so the way one person sees something can completely open up something for somebody else. I've had so many people that have taught me different ways of thinking. And I think to myself, if I had still been thinking the way that I did 10 years ago, last year, I wouldn't be where I am today. I had such small thinking. I had such a fixed mindset. And I still do in some areas. Like I still need to grow in some areas. However, if it weren't for other people pouring into me and showing me different ways to think, different ways to look at something, I would be stuck. I'd be repeating the same patterns, stuck in the same cycles. But because of them, I've grown and I am growing. And now I am out here on this public platform teaching other people how to think differently, how to grow, how to be better. And it's a ripple effect, right? Because the people that were before me paved the way and they taught me something. And now I'm on this journey and I'm paving a way for other people. And you can do the same. When you embrace who you are, when you embrace your talents, when you embrace your creativity, your differences, your whatever, you can pave the way for somebody else. You know, in all of this, it is so important to learn how to validate yourself. I talked about this last week, how in our people-pleasing tendencies, we look for external validation. We are looking for people to pour into us and tell us that we're doing something right, that we're good, that we're enough, that we're worthy. But we get to do that for ourselves. Like, yes, it is great to be validated and to validate others. I think that is so important in relationships. It's really great to do that. However, we should not be relying upon it. We should not be seeking it. Our worth isn't dependent on it. We get to validate ourselves. Remember how I said last week, like everybody's like is extra? Everybody's validation is extra. We can walk in truth knowing that what we're doing is right, that we are a child of God, that God's got our back. And as long as we are aligning with what God says, that's the validation that we need, God's. So I really want you to learn how to validate yourself, because this helps you to become less affected by other people's criticism and their rejection, because you know your worth. So how do we embrace that we are not for everybody? Firstly, we need to shift our perspective. We need to shift our mindset. We need to grasp the realization and believe, like absorb it into our soul, absorb it into our minds, that we are not going to be universally liked. It is actually impossible. And the sooner that we accept that, the sooner that we break off this need for acceptance from every single person that we interact with, the freer we will be. Like even the most loved and admired people have critics. Look at Hollywood. You can't please them all. I think I really learned this, and I said this last week when I read the book Boundaries by doctors Henry Cloud and John Townsend, that no matter what I do, somebody is going to be upset. Like I could make the right decision and somebody is still going to be upset. There is no realistic way to please everybody. And when I realized that reading that book, it broke something off in me where I was like, wow, I don't need to strive to make everybody happy. I don't need everybody's like. Because when you think about it, the people that don't even like me, the people that are mad at me, the people that have pushed me out of their life, are people who are living lives that I would never want to live. Like their lives are nothing like I want mine to be. And that's okay. So I think we need to look at the source of who doesn't like us, who's upset with us for being us. Are they somebody that you would take advice from? Are they somebody that you would want your life to look like? These are really big questions to ask. I don't ask a lot of advice from people because a lot of people aren't living the way that I want my life to look like. I'm very particular about who I ask for advice. Another way to embrace that not everyone is for you is to focus on building your people, building your group, building your tribe, building your community of people. Invest your time and your energy in people that are going to value you and support you. And push you to be better. Like, we don't want to surround ourselves with yes people. We don't want to be enabled. However, we don't want to be torn down. We don't want to be criticized. We don't want to be whatever that is. And so find the people that build you up, that call you to be better, that appreciate you for who you are, that love and accept you for who you are without the need to change, while also being open to changing to be better, to be more Christ-like. And I want to say this, we also get to decide who we're in relationship with, who's in our lives. As simple as that may sound to some people, to others, that is groundbreaking. I remember in my Facebook memories, this came up where I said, like, I also get to choose who my friends are. I don't have to wait to be chosen. Like, I get to make that decision too. It reminds me of back in PE, like in high school, middle school, when you're waiting to get picked on your team, they would always have like the captain and they would pick, and you're like one of the last people and you're like, please pick me, please pick me. Is this where this stemmed from? This is what it feels like we're waiting to be picked by people. We get to pick people too. We have the power to do that. Like, it's not just up to other people whether or not we have a relationship or we're accepted. We want to make sure that the people around us are who we want around us too, who we want in our lives. I see so many people giving their power away to others, waiting for them to like them, waiting for them to accept them, waiting for them to pick them. But don't forget that you also get to do that. Go pick and be picky. You know, Jesus is perfect. And in his time on earth, he was literally perfect, made zero mistakes. And people hated him. He was hated by so many people. And so I want to talk about what Jesus says about all of this. Because when you read the Bible, and I said this last week, you don't see Jesus desperate for people's acceptance. You don't see Jesus begging people. You don't see Jesus abandoning himself to be accepted by others. Because he was there because God put him on a mission. So it was him and God, him and God, him and God. And that's what this is for you. It's you and God. You know, Jesus experienced so much rejection while he was here on earth. And he taught all of us to expect it as well, especially if we're followers of Jesus. In John 15:18-19, he says, if the world hates you, keep in mind that it hated me first. If you belong to the world and it would love you as its own, as it is, do not belong to the world, but I have chosen you out of the world. That is why the world hates you. And this reminds me of something a friend told me recently, that the God in us is going to irritate the demons in others. The light in us is going to upset the darkness in others. And that has nothing to do with you. Like, we are in a spiritual warfare. So it's not necessarily about the other person or people. But there is a spiritual warfare that plays a factor in this too. There are people that could dislike you for doing what is right, for following Jesus. And in Matthew 10:14, Jesus told his disciples, if anyone will not welcome you or listen to your words, leave that home or that town and shake the dust off your feet. And I feel like Jesus is saying, move on from the rejection. Don't sit there and beg people. Don't present them with all the facts on why they should accept you. Move on. Another example is Paul. Paul faced so much persecution and opposition during his time. In 2 Corinthians 12:10, he writes, that is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weakness, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am made strong. And he's showing that, going through the rejection, going through the opposition and the hardships makes us better. It strengthens our faith. God uses it for good every single time. And then in Galatians 1:10, Paul says, am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God? Or am I trying to please people? If I were still trying to please people, I would not be a servant of Christ. We should just end the episode on this one, period. We are here to seek God's approval, not man's approval. We are here to seek God's opinion, not man's opinion. We live for God. We weren't made for man. We were made for God. And that is who we worry about. And what's beautiful is that in this opposition, God never leaves. He promises in Isaiah 41:10 that do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous hand. And then this last verse that I want to share is Psalm 27:1. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? We don't have to worry about fear because we have a really big God who's got our back. And I believe it's Romans 8:28 that says, if God is for me, who can be against me? It doesn't matter who's against us because we have a God that is for us. He's for us. He's for you. He's got your back. He wants the best for you. I hope you believe that. I hope that you accept that today. I hope that this releases you from the slavery that you've been in of people pleasing and trying to get everybody to like you and accept you, because it's not biblical. It's not why we're here on earth. I've heard this phrase that man's rejection is God's redirection. And I think that that is so true. There is so much that we can learn and get and grow through man's rejection because God has a better plan than we could ever imagine. And it's important to remember that not all criticism is about you. I say this a lot, but what happens to you isn't always about you. Like I said at the beginning of the episode, this is all subjective. Liking other people is subjective. This stuff was formed in childhood or through life experiences or whatever that happened before you or had nothing to do with you. And so somebody's rejection or somebody's criticism or somebody's whatever isn't about you. It's about preference. That's it. Other people's criticism often can reflect their insecurities and their own personal issues, unhealed wounds, past traumas, etc. Stay grounded in your values. Stay grounded in God. And I know that it can be painful to lose people, friends, family. I get it. I've been there. but you're losing people that don't support you. You're losing people that don't love you for who you are. You're losing people that don't want the best for you. You're losing people that want to keep you in a box. You're losing people that only want you to behave a certain way or talk a certain way or look a certain way. Like you're losing people with expectation. But this makes room for the people that will love you unconditionally and accept you wholeheartedly. And that's what we want. We get to choose. Make room for those people. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you tuning in to episode 27. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel, like this episode, and share it with a friend that you think that it'll help and encourage in their journey. And I will see you next week. Bye.
Yeah.